Hi, I am Rajendra Kulkarni and you are watching my channel Programming in C with RSK. Welcome to this video which deals with functions in C. It is an introductory video. Very simply I have explained how to create the function and how to use those in our programs. We have used printf and scanf functions many times up till now in our programs. These functions are pre-developed and they are made available for use to us by the file called stdio.h, which we always include in our programs. This file comes with the compiler. Well, the printf, scanf are the names. These functions we use simply by mentioning their names in our programs. We can say that a function is a self-contained block of code created for specific task, and this block of code is named one. So by using its name we can call this block of code to perform whatever we want it to do in our program. It's the compiler which makes the code of the function available to us. And functions can be reused and called in the programs as many times as required by us simply by mentioning its name. We will learn how to develop our own functions and how to use those whenever required in our programs. Creating a function is very simple. Just write void fun1 into the bracket void, then starts main. Please note that the function name here, fun1 is the name we have given to this function. It is appearing before the main, so it is out of main. Why it is out of main, that we will learn later on. In main there is a simple statement printf calling function fun1 from main, then fun1, then back to main, printf back to main, and closing braces of main. Then outside the main we write void fun1 void again into the opening and closing braces. One simple statement appears, hi, I am in function fun1. This is the screenshot after running the program, screenshot of the output screen. What it does is it first executes this printf statement in main, which gives us this output calling function fun1 from main. Then it executes the function fun1 function, in which there is one simple statement which appears as the output here, and again when function block is complete, closing braces of the function are reached, program goes back to the calling function, which was main in this case, and it starts executing the statements appearing immediately after the function fun1. then the closing braces of main. Void fun1 into the brackets void is called a prototype. As we declare variables before use, it is mandatory to declare functions. Most of the time we can declare the function inside the main also, but by declaring the function outside the main, it is available to all other functions if they are in the main. In this program there is no other function, so we might have declared it in the main also, but it is a good practice to declare the functions outside the main. This void fun1 in the brackets void and a semicolon. This is called a prototype declaration. This fun1 here, fun1 and semicolon, it is called a function call. So we are calling this function from the main. And void fun1 void, again the same statement we have written here. It is called function definition. Function definition means the code which we want that function to execute in our program. So when the program control reaches a statement like fun1, or when it reaches the name of the function mentioned in the program control jumps from that statement to the function definition. So here, after fun1 is encountered by the program control jumps onto the function definition. It executes that whatever is the code in the function, and on completion, on reaching the closing brace of the function, the control goes back to the calling function, in this case it is main, and starts executing the statements after the function call. Fun1 is called a function call. This is function definition, and this is prototype declaration of a function. What prototype includes? It includes the function's name. In this case it is fun1. Then it also includes return type. What is a return type? That we will know later on. Here in this case void, this void is the return type, and then it also includes arguments within the parenthesis. In this case void is the argument. What void stands for? It stands for nothing. So what this tells us? This function fun1 does not return anything, and to this function nothing is being passed. After the name, argument appear within the parenthesis. Well, the function we just now saw does nothing, just outputs a simple sentence through the printf function used in that function. However, functions are meant to carry out some meaningful task. Now in this slide we will understand how a function can be used for carrying out tasks required by programmer. Another function, prototype declared void fun underscore add void. In the main, the first statement calling function fun1 from main, then we call fun add, and then another simple statement back to main, printf back to main, and closing braces of the main. Function definition, void fun underscore add into the parenthesis void. So this function also returns nothing, and nothing is being passed to this function. But what it does is, we write a code here for adding values of two variables which are to be supplied from keyboard by the user. So we have declared three variables int type, then we are prompting user to add values for a and b, and whatever are the user inputs, those values will be assigned to variables a and b. Then a simple addition statement, c is equal to a plus b, and in the printf statement, in function addition, result is equal to %d c. So what this function does is, it accepts input from the user, add those inputs, and displays the result of addition on our CRT screen, on our monitor screen, and then function closing brace. So while I ran this program, I enter values 10 and 30 for a and b. Naturally, in function addition, result is equal to 40. So first, in the main, when the program starts executing from main's opening brace, a printf statement calling function fun1 which appears here, then function call funadd which causes the program jumps to the definition of the function, opening brace of the function's definition code. There are three variables declared, then prompting the user for entering the values, assigning those values to a and b, and finally the result of addition is being displayed. Then program controls after the closing braces of the function are reached, program control goes back to the main on a statement immediately following the function call. In this case, it is back to main, that gets printed on the screen through this printf statement, and the program ends. So void is the return type of the function funadd. Void are function arguments. Whatever is appearing into the parenthesis after the function's name is called the function's arguments. Again, in this program, what we are trying to understand is, what is the scope of a variable. Fun1 declared, function prototype is declared as void fun1 into the parenthesis void. Then main, we are declared one variable int I is equal to 100 into in the main. That printf statement displays it onto the screen. Then we call fun1, we call the function, After the function, another statement in the main appears. In the main, after function call, I is equal to %di. What this function does, it just assigns the value of 200 to int I, and one simple printf statement which displays the value of I into the fun1, and function goes back, and the program control goes back to the main, and then there is another printf statement which displays the value of I after the function onto the screen. So what we are seeing here is, in main, before function call, I is equal to 100. This statement, this printf statement executes and gives the value of I as 100. Then the program goes to fun1, in which another printf statement, in this, in function I is equal to 200, that displays the value of I assigned to the value assigned to I in fun1. It displays that value on the screen. After going back, another printf statement in main after function call, again it is displaying the value of I. What we see here is the value of I in main before function call is 100. In function call we have assigned I 200 with the value of 200. I is assigned with 200, but when the program control goes back to main after the function is completed, after the execution of the function is completed, the value of I is again displayed as 100. So in function we have made I is equal to 200, in main we have made I is equal to 100, but even after function call, the value of I in main remains 100. Why value of I has not changed in main even if it is assigned 200 in function? That is the scope of a variable. A variable is known only within the block in which it is declared. So I in the main is known only to main functions statements or main functions code. The scope of a variable is within the block where it is declared. In this program we declare I as 100 in main. This I belongs to main as it is declared within the opening closing braces of main. It is declared in the code of main. So in a simple term we can say that this I is the property of main, and since it is declared in main, it belongs to main, it is not available outside main. In function block, I is again declared as 200. Now the scope of variable says that this I belongs to function, and since it is declared within the opening and closing braces of the function, it is only known to fun1 and not outside the fun. The scope of a variable is local to the block in which it is declared. In this case, I in main and I in fun1 are known only within their respective blocks. Let us see another program which will make our understanding of scope a bit easier. Here int b is declared and assigned value 111 in main, then there is a for loop. Within the for loop there is another variable int b declared and assigned with value 0. Then that b is incremented by 1 and closing braces of for loop. Then another statement, printf statement, out of for loop b is equal to %d, address of b is equal to %u, b and ampersand b. So what in effectively we are doing? We have declared one variable named b and assigned with value 111 in main. We have declared another variable of the same name b and assigned with value 0, but within the closing and opening braces of for loop. Within the for loop we are obtaining the value and address of b. Outside the for loop we are obtaining the address of b and value of b again. The program output is, in for loop b is equal to 1, address of b is equal to 65522. This happens twice, this printf statement executes twice because the for loop goes for 2 iterations. We have seen here I is less than or equal to 1. First when it is 0 it will iterate, then when it is 1 it will iterate, and when I becomes 2 it will come out of the loop. Out of for loop b is equal to 111, address of b is equal to 65524. So what we see here is there are two variables named b. One is local to the for loop and one is available in main. So when there are two memory locations, same being named b, there are two b variables. The b of a main has a scope in the main block. B of for loop has the scope in for loop block. So actually there are two variables of the same name. One exists in main, other exists in for loop. The question is, when b is available to the main and since for is a part of main, why this b is getting value 0 here, but it retains its value 111 outside the for loop. There is another rule. If there is a conflict of names, then variable local to the block gets preference. So this b will be used as a variable with its value assigned to it within the for loop. This b, even though it is inside the main, it should be available to for loop, but since for loop has another variable b, that whatever is declared within the loop will get the preference. So simply saying variable local to the block gets preference. A simple another program, a small program. Here b is declared in a block of main, then there is no b declared in for loop. So in this case, this b declared in main will be available for use within the for loop, and this b will get incremented when the for loop executes. So after for loop, in main address of b is 65524 and value of b is equal to 10 after the loop. Why? Because there is no conflict now in the for loop for having the variable b as it's another variable declared in the within the loop. So we get this b, main b is available for into the for loop also. Well, in this slide we are going to see how function calls work. We have already seen when we use the library functions like scanf, printf, when the function is executed in our program, the program starts executing from the statements immediately following the function calls. We will reaffirm this in this slide. Let us see a small program. I declared three functions. The names are flight, train and bus. All these three functions have been declared outside the main. That means these functions will be available to all other functions in our program. Then there is a main function, void main, a simple statement, printf I am in a main, then another printf statement going to flight, and then there is a function call to the function named flight. After the function call, a statement again, printf back to main. Now this is a void function. In this void function again there are only a few statements which are simple printf statements and a function call. So in the void function, when the program enters into the void function, after the function call flight, when it enters into the flight function, it will simply have a printf statement. It will execute travel by flight is expensive going to train. This printf statement will be executed. Then we are calling a function called train. After this train function is called, then another two statements, back to flight from train and going back to main, and there is a closing brace of the flight function. So when we call a train function from flight function, what is the train function? It's again a simple printf statements. The first printf statement is train travel is comfortable, and then another statement going to bus. Then there is a call for bus function. In bus function, after the call to bus function, another printf statement back to train from bus and going to flight. In the bus function, what we have is only two statements, both printf statements. First is bus travel is economical, and then going back to train. So how this whole program will work? Before that, before we find out how this works, let us have a simple and small discussion about scope of a function. As we have seen, scope of a variable is local to the block where it has been declared. Similarly, scope of a function is local to the block in which it is declared. Now these three functions we have declared outside the main, so these functions will be available to all the functions in this program, in this program's executable file. Whenever a function is called from another function, its prototype is declared outside main. The declaration of prototype outside the main make the scope of the function global. So all these three functions are global in nature. They are known to all the functions on this file in this program. What happens when the program function call is encountered by the program? So in this case, when the main function encounters a call to flight, the program control will go to the flight's opening brace and it will execute these statements, printf statement. Then it encounters a function train. So the program control now goes jumps to opening brace of the train function. It will execute one statement here, printf statement, then execute printf going to bus this statement, and there is a call for a function called bus. So as soon as the program control encounters a call to the function, it will jump to the opening brace of that function. In this case it is bus function. It will execute these two statements, bus traveled is economical and going back to train. Then there is a closing brace of the bus function. From here, where the program should go? It will go to the calling function. Which is the calling function for bus? Bus has been called from train. So the program control will go back to a statement after the call to the bus function. In this case, it will execute this statement, printf statement, back to train from bus and going to flight. So when it reaches the closing brace of train function, it should go back to the calling function, and in this case the calling function train has been called by flight. So the program control will jump back to the statements after the train function's call in the flight function. It will again execute this statement back to flight from train. Then it will execute a statement going back to main. When it enters at the closing brace, it should return to the calling function from where the call to flight has been made. In this program, this program control will now jump to statements following the flight the call to the flight function in main, and it will hence execute the back to main statement. It will printf back to main statement will be executed, and the program will comes to an end. On the closing braces of main, program terminates. So this is the way function calls are made. So what is the output of our previous program? The program which we discussed just now in the previous slide. This is the output screenshot. I am in the main is the first output, and then there are various outputs going to flight. Travel by flight is expensive, going to train. Train travel is comfortable, going to bus. Bus travel is economical, going to get back to train. So from bus function, when the bus function ends, the program control goes back to a function from which the call is made. In this case, it is train function. In this way, the program control jumps from one function to another and goes back to the main function after all the functions are executed. This is the manuscript, or it is a statement which I have written, which you can go through. What I have just discussed now is written here. It's a written form of what we discussed verbally. So this is all about the introductory part of the functions. Please like, share and subscribe to my channel. I have uploaded many videos up till now on arithmetic operator, decision control using if else and switch, loops, pointers, and in this video we have discussed about the introductory part of functions. We'll be uploading more videos on functions, arrays, strings, structures, files and many more topics. Please keep watching my channel. Thanks for viewing.